I am implementing a hiring freeze, exempting public safety, and I am restricting non-essential purchases. These actions will reduce the draw on savings as we monitor revenue for the rest of '09. For too long, Alaska's economy has struggled with fluctuating revenue due to global commodity prices, and in a volatile economy, numbers are not fixed, but principles are. We've followed the same principles from the start of this administration: fiscal discipline, limited government, and responsible stewardship. At a time when other state legislatures are staring at multi-billion-dollar deficits, and when our federal government proposes a deficit in excess of $1 trillion this year alone, we have all the cautionary examples that we need in the virtues of living within our means. With less revenue, obviously, we have an obligation to spend less money. With our share of federal funds and Congress's stimulus package too, our obligation is equally clear. We must ensure that these public funds only will serve the vital needs, as is the case of our infrastructure for our gas pipeline, which is needed for the nation, and the Kodiak launch facility, adding to national defense. President Obama pledged not to let this stimulus package devolve into the past familiar scene of politicians lining up for obscure earmarks. And this is reform at work. Thankfully now, here in the state, in the past couple of years, we've allocated billions for roads and ports and schools, other vital public works projects. That money, it hits the streets and grows the economy this year so that the private sector can create and we can keep many thousands of good Alaskan jobs through this. So that was good planning. Now we can stay on the course of this path of investment with continued support for essential construction projects. These projects will literally build our state. Now we can't buy into the notion that for government to serve better, it must always spend more. Reductions that we support, they're a chance to show the true measure in public policy. Simply increasing budgets every year. It's common government practice, but it's no guarantee of success. And more often, it is an incentive to failure. Good public policy is accountable for results and focused on critical priorities. Now, we promised reform in public education so schools can plan ahead and bureaucracies do not smother a school's creativity or a student's aspiration. We now take the next step in our 3-year education plan to offer every young Alaskan, rural and urban, the opportunity to learn and work and succeed in this world. We'll fully forward fund all our school districts with more than $1 billion, and that's more than 21% of our general fund expenditures. Education is that high a priority. We'll focus on early learning and vo-tech and workforce development and enhanced university and streamlined operations. We're going to hold schools accountable, and we'll encourage more opportunities for students with special needs. Now, personally here, one of the great privileges given to me last year was the chance to be a witness for the truth that every child has value, and to say to special needs children that they are beautiful and loved and they are needed, and we learn more from them than they from us. Across America, a great change is coming in public policy affecting these children, and Alaska can lead the way. And this is part of a culture of life where every child is cherished and protected. In this chamber also, we share a commitment to serious healthcare reform. And we've learned from experience that all the answers do not come from Washington. When Congress turns to healthcare reform this year, we're going to look to our delegation to make the case for greater competition and more private sector choices and less litigation in the healthcare market. But we're not going to wait. Here, reform can move ahead without delay. I look forward to working with you all on adjustments to kids' health insurance. And we'll fund more early screenings. For example, for autism, early detection is going to make all the difference with many of the things that we're dealing with in today's society. We'll focus on preventing disease and promoting healthy living. And I'm going to ask that physical education be incorporated into our daily school schedules again too. We have here in Alaska alarming levels of heart disease and diabetes and childhood obesity. And all of these maladies, they're on the rise. Now, I won't stand here and lecture for very long, but healthcare reform on an individual basis is often just this simple. We could save a lot of money and a lot of grief by making smarter choices. It starts by ending destructive habits and beginning healthy habits in eating and exercise. In my case, it's kind of hard to slack off when you have the ever-present example of an iron dogger nearby, but many of us could use more time in our great outdoors. And when you live in the great land, really there is no excuse. Protecting good health, it's largely a matter of responsible personal responsibility, but government policy, of course, can help. Our new Alaska Healthcare Commission will recommend changes that affect the well-being of Alaskans far into the future. So a healthier Alaska via personal responsibility and subsisting more on our pure and plentiful Alaskan food sources. It's why we protect our waters and our soils from pollutants, and it's a reason that we manage our wildlife for abundance. To ensure this, we've successfully brought the Habitat Division back into Fish and Game, as I had promised, and our biologists, they're protecting game by eliminating predators from calving grounds and will further protect herds, some of which are at precariously low levels of abundance, thus ultimately promoting the population growth of every species. And we're building viable personal use and commercial fisheries in some of the most controversial and complex fisheries in the world, dealing with half a dozen foreign countries. We're dealing with Japan and Russia and Canada, and we're establishing sustainable seafood stocks and limiting salmon bycatch in the trawl fishery. We've increased research on salmon runs, and we're building new hatcheries for vibrant industry. As the largest and only Arctic state, we're also studying climate change through our DEC-led sub-cabinet, and we're suing the federal government for misusing the Endangered Species Act. See, there is an attempt there to use the ESA to impose environmental policies that should be debated and approved legislatively, not by court order or bureaucratic decree. Alaskans have shown through our protective laws that we're willing and able to protect our magnificent wildlife while developing our God-given resources by using conservation laws as they were intended. So we'll challenge abuse of federal law when it's used just to lock up Alaska. Vital projects now underway. They show how much science and technology have improved in a generation, greatly reducing risk to environment. Continued work in Cook Inlet and on the North Slope, the new drilling at Nakayachuck and new exploration in the MPRA, these projects and more, they're going to be carried out with the safest methods. And my administration, we've dramatically ramped up oversight. We demand the highest standards of stewardship and corporate responsibility because we want to pass on this Alaska that we cherish to our children and our grandchildren and beyond. And just as we strive to keep our environment safe, we're dedicated to keeping Alaskans safe. We finally filled vacant trooper positions this fall. We have several innovative initiatives moving, like a Highway Patrol Bureau focused on road safety and DUI enforcement. And I'm excited about the Troop to Trooper program, which offers our National Guard hometown heroes careers in law enforcement. These priorities, all these priorities, they've got to be a powerful incentive to think clearly and act decisively, not politically, in pursuit of funding them with our next economic lifeline, and that's the gas line. Without revenues from developing clean natural gas, priorities can't be funded, and we will deplete reserves within a decade. Working together, we're developing a 10-year plan to keep a healthy balance in our constitutional budget reserve. We're laying up stores until strong revenue comes in with a flow of natural gas to feed hungry markets here and outside. Unfortunately, they only focus on potential obstacles when they discuss projects like the gas line, the giants in the land preventing us from